This is Jordan Secular. As you can see, I am in a hotel room. This is behind me. If I open the windows in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the ACLJ has got, again, a good team here and presence at the Republican National Convention. Of course, a convention that is changing by the moment. We know that President Trump is here. We'll likely make what is usually, if I've been involved in these in the past, they make it a kind of appearance on the first night or two of the convention. They don't usually make remarks, or if they do, it's a word or two, but they'll come out and kind of wave to the delegates as people kind of pour into Milwaukee to start filling up. But of course, what happened on Saturday evening, and the fact that we're even here today talking about not President Trump being nominated this week, I think, again, and I don't want to take away from the loss of life from that firefighter who was protecting his family at all. But when you've heard now from these experts on how close this shooter was and how easy of a shot this was, and it was literally because of the way President Trump had decided to turn his head, that the bullet went through his ear instead of something that could have been completely catastrophic. I mean, we're learning more each day about the incident and also about why 150 yards away wasn't being more secured by the Secret Service, and we're learning that it wasn't his usual Secret Service team. But guys, I mean, both Logan and Will, I mean, there is, I will tell you, there's a palpable difference on the ground in Wisconsin. One is because things are changing rapidly here, schedule-wise. I think President Trump came because that was starting to become too much of a story as well, and he wants it to kind of get back to of course, the themes of this week and the speakers that'll be here. But we already know there's some new speakers like Nikki Haley joining. So this kind of new unity effort inside the Republican Party. And I think in his speech, it'll be to the entire country that we can disagree on issues, but we should never live in a country where we are just afraid. And we saw this last election, but on this election, it's even more so. You know, I used to always tell people, Logan, you know what, if you really want to get that vote out, don't be afraid to put the bumper sticker on your car. I mean, now, I mean, think about what just happened, and you have to rethink that seriously, especially if you've got young kids or a family or live in a city that might not be friendly to Republicans. Or there's just one guy in that city who might not be friendly to Republicans and decides to use you as a target. I mean, that is now not just some theory. The former president of the United States, Donald Trump, there was an attempted assassination, and for the Republican nominee for president.
Absolutely. I think that is a concern everyone's going to have. But you did see sort of that unification happen over the weekend. You saw a lot of even the celebrities who are very liberal, very active Democrats come out and saying they were praying for President Trump and for the families of those that were lost. And of course, that tragic story that came out, it's just horrifying. It doesn't feel like the country we live in. Maybe there's a moment for unification right now. As you said, Donald Trump has already made a statement that he's kind of readjusting his whole speech to be more of unification. We do have some news that looks like, that a VP will be announced imminently, probably in the next few hours. And there's definitely a leading candidate right now just due to some traction happening. But also, when you look at what happened on the weekend, even little things, Jordan, like you said, in Milwaukee, I'm sure things are changing. The Daily Show, Comedy Central's news show, they brought back Jon Stewart for it. They have pulled out of Milwaukee. They've decided they're not doing their show because they feel it's inappropriate. And the fact you even have a comedic group of the Daily Show saying, "Hey, we're going to take this back to New York. We're going to still do it in studio. We're not doing a show at all on Monday." And we're going to give this a little moment to breathe. I think you do have the resetting of America in some ways, hopefully, towards that. Now, that's not to say that it's going to be smooth sailing from here to there, but the tone is going to change, at least for the next few months. And whether that is from the fact that President Biden was able to get on the phone with President Trump, I think even says a lot.
Well, and I also think one of the biggest problems that we saw immediately was legacy media. In the way that legacy media handled this, and whether it be the headlines like CNN saying Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally, or the Washington Post saying that Trump was escorted away after loud noises at Pennsylvania rally, NBC News, Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after popping noises heard at his Pennsylvania rally, when everyone knew what it was. Everyone, normally this is something that legacy media would love to write the most bombastic headline they could, but they treated this completely different because it was Trump, and you could tell that they were concerned about making him stronger. So they chose politics in this moment over reporting. And this is another interesting note. You talked about the Daily Show canceling their broadcasting at the RNC because they didn't feel it was appropriate. This morning, MSNBC canceled one of their biggest shows. Morning Joe was pulled from the air Monday morning. Just for today. They will go back on air tomorrow.
Celebrating too early.
Right. But they were pulled off air today, and they just continued news coverage because this is a quote given to CNN. A person familiar with the matter told CNN the decision was made to avoid a scenario in which one of the show's stable of 24+ guests might make an inappropriate comment on live television that could be used to assail the program and the network as a whole. MSNBC did not trust the folks on Morning Joe,
their panel,
to not make something inappropriate and to damage the reputation, the already stellar reputation of MSNBC, but they didn't trust Morning Joe to not make it worse. That should tell you everything you need to know about the state of the media today.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of those comments we saw out of Benny Johnson, this is the Democrat congressman who co-led the January 6th investigation, right? And, of course, he also then proposed legislation that any presidential candidate that has been charged with a felony or convicted of a felony should lose their Secret Service protection. That would have been good if that had gotten through Congress, right? Because Donald Trump would have 100% been dead at that event, and a lot of other people as well. But, of course, then he fired a staffer for saying, I wish they had better aim, something like that. I mean, there is still, I know we call for this moment of unity, and we want to get to that point because, again, we should be able to have tough political battles in our country, but the battles should be words and ideas. They shouldn't be in the streets. They shouldn't be with guns. We are all Americans at the end of the day, and whether you like the president who gets elected or you don't, you have to respect the office and also respect the members, your fellow citizens who did vote for them. You can think they are totally wrong. You can constantly talk about that. But again, when they talk about bringing down the heat, I think they think, oh, well, this is really going to actually hit on Donald Trump. But it's their rhetoric. It was Joe Biden who said, let's put a target on Donald Trump. Let's put the target there. It has been his team that has used this rhetoric, comparing him to Hitler and the Nazis. And when you do that, and people who are not quite right in the head hear it, they think that they're doing something potentially heroic if you're stopping the next Adolf Hitler. I mean, which is what Democrats have gotten used to when they talk about Donald Trump. So I think here, Logan, you've got this unique opportunity for Republicans to really rise above where the Democrats have been playing in the mud.
I think you're right. I think there's a chance for the Republican Party to actually make a difference here, whether the Democrats will or not. They can actually be the ones. We may see a landslide victory. It's because of however this rolls out over the next few days.